Hello, and welcome to another episode of A Wicked Parley. I'm your host, Justin, and this is my fellow co-host, Rose.
Evening, everybody.
Well, tonight we have a series of interesting subjects to potentially discuss, and we were going to get to that. But before I do, I would like to first just say thank you for all the support that you guys have shown us. It's been wonderful. I really appreciate the subscribers. I appreciate the likes. And I really appreciate just all the participation. It's been wonderful. I'd also like to ask if you wouldn't mind sharing the channel with your friends and family, as I'm sure that it would help the channel and help the conversation continue and be an overall good thing. And with that being said, what exactly are we going to be talking about tonight, Rose?
Oh yeah, tonight, we're gonna talk about communication.
All right, communication. And just so I know, Matthew, thank you. This shirt is nice, isn't it? All right. So, what are we going to dive into first regarding to communication?
Alright, okay, almost forgot that one. Anyway, first off, what are the different types of communication?
Well, there's a few different types of communication depending upon who you ask. But the obvious ones, of course, are like interpersonal communication. There's body language. There's communication between genders. There's personal communication, and etc. But what kind of communication did you want to focus on discussing?
I wanted to focus on two specifically, interpersonal communication and nonverbal communication, because I think those are very important to get at, to inform people about and whatnot.
Sure, yeah, those are two really important things, and it should be great to discuss. So, can anybody in the chat want to give a kind of like a thumbs up or a hello? As you come in, I want to make sure the audio sounds good, so let's make sure you're hearing me nice and clear.
So, first and foremost, what's your definition of interpersonal communication? Like, what do you consider interpersonal communication?
Well, and so interpersonal communication to me is probably best summed up by just essentially conversations, little details that allow you to get a better understanding of another person or another group. Sometimes they can be considered social cues, etc.
Okay. Hi, host. Hi, Zephyr. Glad you could join. Alright. But yeah, interpersonal communication. Yeah, definitely for me, it's how you interact with other people. Mostly verbal. Of course, there are also non-verbal components. It's a lot of stuff goes into it, to keep it short.
What about the chat? Does anyone want to throw a couple definitions of interpersonal communication?
Yeah, like what do you consider interpersonal communication and whatnot?
And while we wait for that, what are your thoughts on body language? What does that mean for you?
Body language? It's kind of what your posture says, what your facial expressions say, what your hands are doing in the middle of a conversation. Like, your mouth is going to say one thing, but your body language might say something else.
Mm-hmm.
That sort of thing. So it's something to keep a track of, especially during either friendly conversations or even a business deal.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. In my personal definition of body language, I think it's anything that you signal to another individual or another group that is not verbal. So whether it be a gesture, crossing arms, crossing legs, maybe like a specific posture, perhaps, like if you lean forward or lean back, I think are all forms of nonverbal or body language.
Fair. Yeah, we have a couple of articles that we're gonna get into later to give a more proper view of things, rather than just us talking.
I'm excited about reviewing those articles. I gotta say that from our previous findings, I think they're kind of interesting. So hopefully they're going to be entertaining for you guys.
Hopefully.
Do we have any comments?
Not a. I don't think it's about what people consider to be their version of interpersonal communication.
Ah, I see. It seems like my brother has enjoyed his vacation of sorts. Looks like. Good for you. All right.
So, do we want to go ahead and
Yeah.
jump right into the article?
Yeah, let's jump into the first article. And so, what is this article going to be detailing out? Is it going to be body language or interpersonal communication?
The first one's going to be about interpersonal communication because, for me, nonverbal is kind of a caveat or a part of interpersonal communication.
Okay.
So, let's see.
All right.
We get the button. Bam.
Okay, so it's mediate.com, so you already know they're in the business of talking.
We got an effective interpersonal communication by, might pronounce the last name wrong, Alan Charlotte.
I mean, that sounds right, but I mean, look at that face. That is a guy who has been on a lot of boats. I mean, jeez, look at that guy. All right.
And like usual, we're going to make sure to include all the articles we use in the description once the live stream is over.
Yeah, so if you end up wanting to read through all of it and maybe hit us with some comments, we'd love to hear back from you.
Yeah.
Also, before we get into the article too much, I would like to say that, hey, if you guys come across a topic that you'd like to hear us talk about or even discuss, feel free to message us at wickedparley@gmail.com. And follow us on Twitter. We got I don't know, every day we got a posting just about, and it's a good way to find out what we might be talking about in any given week. So come check us out. All right, without further ado, let's jump into that article.
Yeah. Alright, so, let's see. Effective personal communication can be achieved through conscious awareness of the following principles. Well, alright, let's go ahead and check what they are.
Interesting.
Number 1, that we treat each other with respect. Yeah, I kind of agree with that, yeah.
Yeah, I think respect is 100% important when it comes to interpersonal communication, because I don't think anyone wants to pay attention or listen to anyone who isn't really being respectful of the other person. So if you come at them with some harsh language, we'll say, I don't think you're going to likely come across too good. So yeah, definitely respect is critical.
Yeah, it's like you kind of. Well, for me personally, I also don't want to really talk to somebody who I know is like not respectful of what I'm saying, because I don't know about you, but I don't exactly feel like talking if I don't feel like my words are actually being heard.
Well, I mean, I don't know about you, but I feel like often I talk and people do not listen. So I don't have that problem as much, but yeah, I can see where you're coming from.
Yeah, I don't know how many others feel that way either, because like I've got a couple of friends that they just don't really feel like talking when they're not being heard, or they're being like talked over or constantly interrupted, because they just don't feel like their word's going to be as important.
Yeah, I also think the ability to be impactful on what you have to say, I think, is equally important. And so if the way in which you're trying to say something isn't respectful of the viewpoint of the person you're speaking to, then the impact you're trying to convey won't be felt and your message will be lost. So I think respect, it comes in many forms, and how you deliver the message and what your message actually is delivering, I think, are equally important and equally valid. So what about the chat? Does the chat feel anything about this particular one? I'm going to ask every time, so just beware.
Fair. Oh goodness, I cannot use the keyboard keys. So far we got nothing about the article so far.
Okay, all right. Well, let's jump into the next one.
Number 2. Oh, there's the mouse. Off the screen. All right. Number 2, that we do not interrupt one another. Hey, I completely forgot that this one was the next one.
You literally were just talking about this. Is this?
Yeah.
Sorry. Yeah, I'm interrupting you. Yeah, there we go. That's gonna be good.
You go first.
All right. Well, I was just gonna say it's fair to say that we know how you feel about this particular one.
Mhm.
Go for it. Go ahead and tell us your 2 cents.
For this one, that we do not interrupt one another, I've it's several times over the past when I listen to conversations, and if people are constantly interrupting each other, it feels like in order for them to feel like they are able to be heard, they kind of get louder, and they kind of sometimes, not all the time, sometimes they get more aggressive and progressively louder, trying to talk over the other in retaliation. And again, I'm not quite sure about the audience, but I think that just kind of makes things worse.
Yeah, I definitely have to agree. There's an escalation of tension when trying to convey your message and then being interrupted repeatedly. That's no fun, and definitely there's going to be anger seeping into a conversation like that.
Yeah, it also depends too, like, if you have to constantly repeat yourself, either that does not add to whoever needs to constantly repeat themselves, it doesn't add to their attitude during the conversation. If anything, it makes it, I feel at least, that it could potentially make it worse.
Yeah, I agree with that. I mean, honestly, whenever I've been interrupted, I feel like my hi there, Michael Johnson. I mean, who are you? I don't know. Whenever I get interrupted, ironically, just like that, I feel like I don't get angry. I just get like confused. I think that's probably more what I actually sense when it comes to those things than anything else. Um, I don't know. Do any of you guys feel confused whenever you get interrupted? Is it not immediately anger that you jump to, but actually just a sort of bewilderment or confusion?
We'll let them get on that. I think we've got a comment for the first post. Let me go ahead and pull that one up again here on our screen here.
Okay.
Let's see. There we go. Now everybody can see what we're talking about. Let's see. We've got one from host saying that it feels bad when friends immediately assume you're wrong, which I think has to do with the whole respect thing. At least that's how I see it.
Yeah, definitely agree with that particular thing. I'm curious. When you wrote that, what was the reason you said that? If you don't mind sharing, host.
I can definitely see where they're coming from too, because it also depends on how often that happens too. Because if your friends of all people are constantly or immediately assuming you're wrong about whatever you're saying, it kind of detracts from the friendship, because it just makes you feel like, well, for me, it makes me feel like they're not actually going to pay attention to what I think, or they're immediately thinking I'm wrong all the time, and that does weigh in a lot on some people's minds.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely agree with that. I was thinking about a little bit about the particular statement, and I think you're touching on the same thing that I probably feel when it comes to it. That if I have a strong friendship, and my friendship is so good that they can say something that's going to be controversial to what I think, then I think that when someone disrespects me to that particular degree, my instant inclination is to first ignore it. But if it's a truly offensive thing, then I immediately try to understand, and then create a kind of like a response that isn't from a place of anger, but from a place of understanding. Because I always want to give people the benefit of the doubt, but yeah, it can be very problematic.
Okay. Oh, we have a response from host.
Okay.
It takes me a long time to come up with a response, especially a short message. Things get tangled real quick. Yeah, that would definitely do it.
Yeah, no problem when it comes to that. If you're referring to responding quickly, that's totally understandable.
Oh yeah, sometimes it takes me... I think there was a question that I could not think of an answer to give them properly, so it took about an hour, and my goodness, in between the question and when I answered, I was getting steamrolled so bad. Let's see, continuation. Then they complain that I don't communicate, like, quote, bro, I am trying, but I need 60% of my brain to say yes.
Yeah.
I feel that. I feel that.
That's yeah. I don't know. I don't feel that communication requires you to come down to whatever level that they might be beginning at. I think that all you require is understanding, and that should be good enough. So, yeah, I don't like it when people do that personally. I am first of all a bro to only a very small number of people. I am a person. So, I mean, yeah, no offense against the bro language, but like, you know, that's not my cup of tea. It's like, nah, bruh, nah. Nah. All right, so we're on what is it, number 3? Working on to the next one.
Number 3. We're on number 3.
Okay, cool.
Let's see. That we have the right to pass. Yeah, on first reading of the article, I didn't actually know what that meant until I further read the paragraph, so let me go ahead and read that one first, just in case.
Also, Rose, I feel exactly the same way. When we came across this, I was like, I have no idea what this is trying to convey.
Context clues, context.
Yeah.
I have a post, now that I mentioned that word.
Okay, before we do that post, though, let's read this, and
Yeah.
then we'll go back to that.
So, that we have the right to pass, so how does that help? It means that we can choose not to do something instead of feel we have to or that we should when we don't want to. It means acknowledging that trying to change others is not only not very loving, but it is also impossible. It means acknowledging that when others try to change us, it can feel very uncomfortable. It means taking responsibility for our choices and actions because no one else can.
Yeah. I think when just hearing that, right, that being able to take responsibility for your actions and not being able to defer blame is incredibly important. And I think having the ability to acknowledge the mistakes and misdeeds of other things can only help to cause you to grow. And so making sure that you can pass through things I think is critical for self-growth, which is why I think it's important for communication. Because if you aren't growing as a confident individual, then the message that you try to say isn't going to come from a place of confidence, which means that you're going to have an issue. There's going to be a breakdown of communications at some level. And so being able to be forgiving in certain circumstances, I think, is critical to having that good communication skills, particularly interpersonally, like this article is going through.
I feel like it's also important to note that being honest about whether or not you're able to do something is very important. I've got a friend of mine, Ashley. She absolutely despises it when somebody says yes to a plan with her, but then they dip, like, last minute. They come up with some excuse that could be true, could not be true, but it happens practically, they've told me, minimum 50-60% of the time. And they're always frustrated about it, which is understandable. So I'd say with the whole that we have the right to pass, it's understandable that sometimes you just can't do whatever the person asks of you, but at least be honest about it. Don't try and get somebody's hopes up, at least for me.
Yeah, I mean, I absolutely agree. I mean, I have a similar story. I have a person I know named Xander, and if I want to get a hold of this guy, I mean, it is an arm and a leg, okay? I got to send somebody to this guy's house. This guy does not answer phone calls or nothing, right? But then he'll send messages to me, and I'm like, what the hell? So am I supposed to respond to this really quickly, like, or not? And to me, I think responding to a message is important. It's almost like kind of respectful to be able to respond to those things in a sort of timely manner. Now, if you're busy, you know, maybe it takes a day to get back to me. So what? That's not a big deal. This is a guy who doesn't respond at all.
Oh, I think you've told me about this one before.
Yeah.
Okay.
So this is definitely one of those situations where I feel like if you don't acknowledge this particular trait, then it can quickly overwhelm you.
I think on the other spectrum of this particular one, like the second sentence, or the beginning of the second sentence, it means that we can choose not to do something instead of feel we have to or that we should. I think that it's important that you shouldn't, again, have to feel like you have to do something. It's very important to take care of yourself. like, take good care of yourself before you try and take good care of other people or helping them, because if you run yourself ragged, who's actually going to be able to help other people?
Yeah, that's true.
This is really your spot.
Yeah. I also think it's important to be able to not to assign everything to an obligation. You know, don't make everything you have to do and every interaction you have an obligation. You know, it is a choice. And don't fall into the trap of feeling like you have to respond and do everything all the time. Because we're not robots, you know? We all make mistakes. We're all people, so.
I'm pretty sure that actually comes in later.
Does it? Oh, yeah, I think it might.
I think
actually.
so,
Yeah, I think it does.
We got into an argument about it.
Well, I don't think we argue.
Well, not really an argument.
It was more of a discussion.
Word that came to mind. It was a debate. It was a calm debate.
A calm debate, yeah. That sounds right. Yeah. I also, not sponsored by Crystal Geyser, the water of choice for Wicked Parley.
Oh my goodness.
And if Crystal Geyser sees this, I am accepting any donations.
Oh my.
I will advertise your products like forever.
Stop.
No, alright.
We don't have anything in the chat at the moment, so we're gonna go ahead.
Okay, cool.
With number 4. That we do not volunteer. Okay, I'll let that be seen so that if people have comments about it later, they can immediately send them in rather than us having to like wait too long for those.
And honestly, I encourage everybody who's watching, if you can, shoot us a message. Send something in the chat if you have any questions or if you have a thought about one of the things that we're talking about. We'd love to hear from you.
Yeah. Oh, we do have a comment about the whole passing thing. So actually, let me go ahead and pull that up so we can get the main bullet point on the screen.
Okay.
Wrong buttons. Alright. We have from Kyle, I have a problem with people pleasing, and my therapist suggested this phrase: I am willing to serve when it's convenient to me. I phrase it as, I am happy to help when and where I can.
Yeah, I think that's a good suggestion on the part of your therapist. I think that being able to create a behavior that regulates your responses, especially if you're overdoing something, I think is really helpful and healthy. Because honestly, having a balance between what you're willing to do and what you're not willing to do, and sometimes some people who are really like people pleasers cross that line a lot and don't really do enough for themselves. I know certain people that definitely are that way. So I think it's important to make sure that you follow that advice. And I think I would encourage anybody who's watching this, follow that advice. It's good advice, and I think it'll make your guys' lives a lot better. It's not that you shouldn't help people all the time, but understand that if you give all of yourself to someone else, and you have nothing left for your own self, then how are you going to help more people down the line?
Mm-hmm. That comment from Kyle reminds me of this post I heard, secondhand post, about somebody's anthropology course. I wish I could find it right now. I could probably find it and get a link to it later, or I can just try to find it. It was an anthropology post about, it was a professor who was saying, we all, for the most part, people want to help other people. We want to try and save as many people as we can. That's why it was an anthropology course in college, so they tacked on, that's why the students are there in college, to help people. However, it's also very important to know that it's okay if we are only able to help one person, and that person is yourself.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that's a very, I don't think you need to look that up. I think that statement on its own stands up. And
yeah,
I think that's fairly accurate.
Pretty much very similar to what Kyle said.
Yeah. Also, I don't know who said it, but get sponsored by Pepsi. At the end of this program, I'm going to tell you why I will never drink Pepsi again.
Oh no, is this a story you've told me before?
This is the story that I've told you before.
Okay,
okay. Actually, in the chat, if people want to hear the story, I'll tell the story. If people don't want to hear the story, then let me know that, because I don't want to be boring people with stories.
Yeah. Maybe we could sprinkle it. Like, if we, tell us in the comment section if you want the story, how relevant is this story to this article? Because we could potentially put it in between.
Oh, no, this is not relevant at all.
Okay.
This is not relevant at all.
Keep it at the end?
This is an end if people care. If people don't, then no big deal.
Okay. Let's see. Oh my. Okay, we do have somebody who wants to hear it later.
Okay, cool. All right, well, then I'll share it. And I promise it's not like a bad story. It's not like Pepsi's, like the worst thing ever. It's just, it's asinine. So,
Alright. Yeah, we'll tell it at the end.
Okay, cool.
I will warn everybody. I had several reactions to it.
Yeah.
Alright. So I keep saying that word.
Yeah, we are at 4, I believe.
Yeah, we're at 4. That we do not volunteer others.
I think you want to read that one.
Yeah. So how does that help? It means recognizing the importance of valuing others' rights to choose and not to use our language in a way that assumes we can choose for them.
So, do you mind if I go off on this a little bit?
Go.
Okay, all right. So, not a lot of people know this about me, but you could say that my family has, some odd quirks about them. And let's say that when I was a teenager, it was assumed that I would do all the things, and that when things went wrong, it was assumed that it was my fault. And so, like, I would get volunteered. Yeah, you can go help this guy move. Who's this guy? No, you're gonna go. Oh, you want to go help fix out this boat? Yeah, go for it. Go. You're doing that now. Yeah. And I was getting volunteered all the time. And then I started forming some good relationships with some of my friends, and I found myself doing the same damn thing. Or I would just be like, I assume they're gonna do this for me, and I had to, like, after about 6 months to a year of doing this, I had to take a step back and go, wait a minute, this is wrong. I'm volatoling them.
You're volunteering them.
Yeah, I'm volatoling them to, you're doing this now. You're volunteering and being told simultaneously. So,
I think it's one thing to delegate jobs during work time, but outside of that, it's another thing entirely.
Yeah, I mean, I was not a nice person when it came to some of this stuff. I'll be flat out honest. I would just tell people some stuff and then force them, and that's not good.
Oh, no.
No.
Yeah.
I would say this, but I learned from my mistake. I understand that's not a good thing, and I would never endorse this from anybody. Everybody, just don't ever do that. Just trust me. You ruin friendships.
Yeah, I've got a similar story. It was at my school. It was at my campus, my current campus. We were all hanging out. This was before, the demonetization virus.
Okay.
We had gone as a club in my department to hang out, socialize with the students, especially some of the newer ones.
Mm-hmm.
And we were having brunch, and it was a weekend, and we all wanted to have some fun. And the one in charge had this board game that I really wanted to play. And I started talking as if we were immediately gonna go play at his place because he had the board game. 5 minutes after we were done chatting, I'm in my car in the parking lot because I'm driving one of my friends, and I immediately went, crap, what did I just do? And I immediately texted him going, I am so sorry, just let me know if that's actually not okay with you. I will cancel everything. I am so sorry. Thankfully, he was fine with it because he wasn't actually planning to do any of the schoolwork he had mentioned he was going to do.
Okay.
But I felt so bad.
Did you though?
Kind of, yeah.
Did you? Okay. All right.
I felt horrible. I kept panicking about it until he said it was okay.
And that's why you're laughing about it now, right?
Yeah,
that's why.
It's one of,
okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Let's see. Nothing new in the comments just yet.
Okay.
Number 5. That we speak only for ourselves. We speak in the I, often called using I statements. I'm guessing that's kind of similar to the previous one, where instead of volunteering people, don't assume you're talking for a group, I suppose?
Yeah, I would say that, yeah. I would say it's intertwined some way. Although when I think about this, I just think of someone just going, I do this. I stand for this. I am doing this. And it's just like, relax, dude. or better yet, relax, bruh. Relax.
Oh my goodness. Okay, it's not that we're making fun of people who say that. It's just the fact that my co-host here is the one saying that, and he does that accent that makes it funny.
Direct your hate to me, because I am making fun of him. She isn't. I am.
You're about to get bonked.
Well, good luck reaching me through the computer.
Oh, I didn't say you were gonna get bonked now, did I?
See the abuse I have to endure for this channel? Subscribe! Like the channel, please.
Oh my
I'm getting bonked later. For this. Talk to your friends about the channel. Our success is necessary. Alright, anyways. So, those are real tears, by the way. Look at those acting skills right there. That was a real tear. That was a real tear. Look at that. Alright.
Number 6. That we speak, but not too often or for too long. Art is pain, by the way, according to host.
Only the greatest artists use the best pain.
Okay, what do you think about this one, huh?
Oh yeah. Death by 1,000 words and death by 1,000 cuts are equally painful.
Wait, what?
Alright. I don't know about if every person's had this experience, but at a graduation ceremony, you're sitting down in your chair. You're trying to get over this ceremony process. You're wearing what is probably described as the most uncomfortable robe ever made. And because the robe I was wearing happened to be thick, and during summer it was very hot. And the people at the front of the stage would not stop talking. Just going and going and going and going and going. And then when that person was done, which was like way too long, okay? Then another person gets up and starts talking and talking and talking. You know, you're out there for an hour, hour 35, baking in the hot sun, while you wait for them to get done talking, only to start calling names and passing out like diplomas and whatnot. It's like, come on now, okay? So yeah, I definitely think there are some people who talk way too long, and it's problematic for lots of reasons. Communication only being one of many.
I feel like this one's gotten me into trouble a couple of times too. Because I like hearing people rather than talking myself. But for some people who don't know me personally, they think I come off as not paying attention, or I don't feel anything toward what they're saying, which isn't true. I'm listening, it's just I prefer to listen. So this has definitely gotten me into a bit of trouble sometimes. Uh-oh. There you go.
I think that's a lie.
Huh? Which part of that?
That's a lie.
Which part of that?
That's a lie.
No, which part of that? If you're gonna tell me it's a lie, you better point out which part.
Okay, I'll tell you what. You get in trouble for talking too much?
No, not too much, too little.
Okay, you getting in trouble, period, just sounds like a lie. Whether it be... like, come on, honestly. That's just... I think it's wrong. I think you know that.
Okay, I think your definition of trouble and my definition of trouble are probably different.
I have gotten into some serious trouble, okay? I've gotten in trouble. You get in trouble? That is laughable. Laughable.
Oh, Kyle, it rained at your graduation? Oh, best weather for graduation, if you ask him.
Man, that's almost as bad. The only thing I would say is that, was it warm water or is it cold water?
Which one is worse for you?
I mean, honestly, I think warm water, 'cause it's like sticky and it's like, ew, you know?
That makes me shiver.
Yeah.
Any chance we can move on before I get that
Let's go on.
in my head?
Let's go on. Typhoon of warm, sticky water.
There we go. Number 7, that we challenge the behavior and not the person enough. I can agree with this one. For me, from what I've seen of my conversations with friends, colleagues, students I've taught, professors I've worked with, the tone of the conversation changes when it feels as if you're no longer attacking what they're saying, but tackling who they are as a person, their personality, or stuff like that.
For
I
sure.
don't know about other people.
Oh, absolutely, for sure.
Yeah. I'm not quite sure about it in our audience, but our audience. Come on, I can English.
Yeah, you can English just like the best of us.
I can English. I laugh at my own jokes. This is sad.
It's okay. Oh no, there's a cat coming.
What? Oh, kitty. Let's see. But yeah, I don't know about people in the audience, but if I feel like they're no longer disagreeing or they're arguing about what I'm saying, but they're actually trying to attack me as a person, like what I believe in, how I act, for one, it gets personal. Two, it doesn't feel like a conversation. It sounds like an actual rant and you want to fight me.
Yeah, I mean, whenever I think about somebody who's being, we'll say, torn down by language, you know, I can't help but visualize an episode from That 70s Show where Red Foreman is getting all angry at Eric. And I just think that has probably happened before. That's probably happened to a lot of people. And so, like, I wonder if, like, you know, do people who have those particular actions that happen to them, do they take it into the future and actually do it to other people themselves?
I don't know. I wonder.
Yeah. I wonder, does the audience maybe want to chime in? It's okay if it appears a little bit later.
Let me go ahead and pull that up for you to read, too. Let's see. La 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 la. Oh yeah, this one that I'm about to highlight for you was about the bonk. I'm not gonna say it, but...
Oh, what the fuck? Alright. No, you know what? Fuck you. No. Alright, we'll call you that.
Let's see.
Pick somebody for a co-host. I'll tell you that this just happened, okay? Just happened. There's no reason. There's no sense behind it. It just happened.
Yeah.
Nah, it's messing with me.
This one was another comment about you, about, like, our conversation earlier about, you know, the trouble aspect.
Yeah, okay, but, like, listen, like, there's a difference between trouble and true trouble, okay?
Okay, fair.
All right.
Fair. I will admit to
You know the level of trouble I've been in, okay?
I do.
Alright?
So your definition of trouble is definitely different than mine.
Yeah.
Kyle.
Okay, first of all, Kyle, no names.
I'll get to you later.
Oh man, Kyle's got something coming. It's not good. I feel like a cold shiver. It means that someone's about to die. All right. So what's the next one?
It's D&D. Everybody's gonna die. Anyway, 8. Your face has been said that.
When you said die, I just thought of murder hobos. Just. Anyways, it doesn't matter. Let's not talk about that now.
Yep.
No one wants to hear about that.
Number 8. That we respect confidentiality.
Yeah, I think that's important, Kyle. Confidentiality is very important, Kyle.
I can't.
It's fine. Don't worry about
Can't.
it.
Whatever.
Don't worry about it. It's fine.
Uh.
What do you think?
Yeah, for this one, it's kind of a case-by-case basis for me, depending on what they end up telling you. Like, if it's just a rant just to rant's sake, then yeah, you might not want to tell the person that they're ranting about unless it's actually a very, very detrimental problem.
Yeah, I agree with that to some extent. I mean, I have lots of people come and speak to me and ask me questions often. A lot of times there's, borderline personal when it comes to things, and so obviously I'm not going to go into any details about it. But I think being able to keep your mouth shut and leave your ego out of something when someone brings something to you is important for interpersonal communication, and being able to be trusted with important, somewhat intimate information is critical to being able to confide in someone. So keeping it safe, keeping it only your ears only kind of thing, I think that's critical for having a healthy relationship in any stage, any form. So yeah, definitely agree with that.
Mhm. Yeah, just as a quick side note, I know quite a number of people who watch our shows are actually, they don't bleh, English. They do know me in real life. So for the show, could you guys refer to me by Rose? I get that some people are gonna slip. We're only human, but like as much as possible, just refer to me as Rose for the show at least.
And just
Please,
and just so you know, I also make that mistake. I have made it before, so it's okay to slip up once. But
yeah, we're all human.
Yeah.
Speaking of which, look at the next one.
All right, I'm gonna say this right now.
Um,
No, it's not.
Huh?
No, it's not.
What? No, what's not?
It's not okay to make mistakes. You must be perfect, 100%. Clear, calculated,
Didn't know you, I would slap you.
mechanized. You must be almost robotic in nature.
If I didn't know you, I would slap you.
I am, of course, being facetious. Come on now. First of all, you couldn't reach me, okay? Once again, you got the issue of the computer thing over there. You way the hell over there. I'm
What's
over
the
here.
hell
You can't do it.
now?
And also, I'm quite a bit taller than you. I am like, gonna just move, just slide out of the way. Just sliding out of the way.
I could argue with you all day about this, but we're talking about communication here.
I think it's a form of communication. What do you guys think?
It's a form,
It is.
but one that could definitely happen off screen.
You see what I go through, people? Stop being those ninja watchers out there who aren't subscribed, who don't like the video. Like the damn video! Like the damn video! I'm gonna be attacked later!
Don't worry, he'll come back for the next live stream. He'll be fine.
With a few patches and cuts and scrapes and a lump. Maybe have a cast in an arm.
Alright. So, okay. For the mistakes thing, I think it's important to mention, or at least clarify, the definition of the word mistake and then what different perspectives on that word are. Because when we reviewed this article earlier, we got into a small debate between... We've got hosts saying... Anyway, we got into a debate about this between your definition of mistake and my perspective of the word mistake.
Okay, so let me first, before we even go over the definition of mistake, okay, I want to clarify. The intention of this particular article and the way in which it's written suggests that the word mistake is meant to be a lighter version of what the true definition of a mistake is. So it's you can think of it like an error or a accident is probably the correct. I would say that it's okay to make accidents would probably make more sense than the word mistake, especially considering the context by which he kind of alludes to the article. I'm assuming it's a he. God, I hope it's a he, considering that face. Discusses this particular section. However, the definition of making a mistake is a potential action or deed that effectively cannot be changed or altered. An example of a mistake that's kind of on an extreme end would be like someone taking another person's life, or something along those lines. And understand that mistake is probably on the far end of a spectrum, and you can think of accident on the lighter end, and kind of imagine it on a spectrum or a scale. And that's probably kind of where this kind of definition, for at least for me, is. So
yeah, that's fair.
Yeah. So what are your thoughts on it?
I think, and chat, feel free to comment your view on mistake. When you think of the word mistake, do you think on the lighter end or do you think on the more extreme, hard end? We immediately got Matthew going, "What murder?" Which I'm going to assume is more on the extreme end, I think.
It's okay.
Which, like you mentioned.
The murder is going to be brought to you by Crystal Geyser.
That's going to be the gag this episode, isn't it?
Crystal Geyser, the water we murder.
But yeah, for me, I've had a. I will admit, I'm more sheltered than some other people, definitely compared to my friends. So my version of mistake is more on the lighter end, more of the accidental wrongdoing, like, like in the game Among Us, when you accidentally click the kill button or the vent button rather than the report button, and it immediately gets caught out in that. You're about to get. What?
I think you know what.
Not really. I'm not a.
You cannot use you being sheltered as an excuse to hide away from some of the opinions because you went to college. You've been exposed to a diverse set of things.
Yeah, but my definition of mistake is still different.
That's fair. So you're entitled to that, but I still stand by what I said.
Feel free to. Your perspective's gonna be different than mine no matter what we do.
That's true. That's very true. Also, if there's any sound effects that you'd like to see me do in the future, leave suggestions in the comments below.
We're gonna try and add more sound effects as we go. It's just a matter of actually figuring out the name of some of them.
Yes. But we're gonna get there. All right. So, did you want to continue, or or you want to go to the next article?
I think going to the second. Are you done with this one?
I mean, honestly, the only things I could say about this are, yeah, it's okay to make mistakes, in the sense that if mistakes are considered to be kind of lighter things. I don't advocate taking other people's lives on an extreme end. I don't think robbing banks or would be a good thing. I mean, yes, it's a mistake, but don't try it. I think just understand that there are pitfalls in every situation and every dynamic that you enter. And I think acknowledging the fact that sometimes you might trip up, an accident might happen, you might say the wrong thing. I think the best thing to do is to acknowledge you did it, apologize for it, and move on. And I think if you do that, you're more likely to have a healthy relationship and good communication skills.
Mm-hmm.
I also think that people who do that are often respected, and I think are appreciated for their honesty and their directness.
For me, yeah, definitely. For me, it's easier to respect a person who actually kind of accepts their mistakes, accepts their responsibility, and works to fix it, rather than just shoving it off as no big deal.
Yeah, I agree with that too. Yeah.
Oh, we've got a comment. Let me go ahead and hide this thing while I prepare the next article. We have a comment.
Okay.
Kyle, who says they think a mistake is a type of accident. I think it's meant to be a bad take, like on a movie set, so it sounds more light.
Yeah, I would agree with that. The way in which the author presents the particular definition or the example definitely would be in that particular line. I just think that mistake as an actual word has a different connotation, especially when you combine it with communication. And so it's important to at least acknowledge that that is a possibility.
Context.
Because, yeah, it's an important thing for context. And speaking of context...
Can I?
Can I read it, or do you want to read it?
You can read it. You can read it.
Okay.
You have more voices than me. This will be great.
Okay. All right. Cool. All right. So.
Here you go.
All right. So. Synonym.
This is a Tumblr posting.
Yes, this is a Tumblr posting. Synonyms are weird, because if you invite someone to your cottage in the forest, that just sounds nice and cozy. But if you invite you to my cabin in the woods, you're going to die. Another one is my favorite explaining, which is terrible English, the difference between butt dial and booty call. Oh my. It's called... What is that word? What is that word? Go ahead and say that word, Anne. Say it.
Connotations?
Connotations. I know, right? And then the next one we have here is, try this on for size. Forgive me, Father, I have sinned.
Oh no, come on. There we go.
Sorry, Daddy, I have been so naughty.
Oh my. I agree with this next one!
Great news. Language is now banned. This is hilarious.
Aye.
So hilarious.
I fell in love with that Tumblr post, and I will absolutely link it.
It's
Props to those people for actually phrasing it in a way that not only makes sense, but makes me absolutely die laughing.
great.
Okay.
So, what is the next article we got?
Yeah,
Talking
this
about?
this one you are definitely fond of, and I was definitely fond of it after reading it. It's for nonverbal communication.
Nonverbal communication. I think before we talk about this,
Yeah.
there's a thing that I think is important that is going to be obviously intertwined in this, and this has to do with the way in which nonverbal communication is conducted between the different genders. Now, I know that my episode 2 and 3 were not entirely favorited for what they kind of conveyed, and so I respect that, and I will say this is that that's clearly not interesting to you guys. However, I think it is important to understand that body language, particularly when it comes to the genders, is a little different. And so when you read through this, understand that just because a person crosses their arms, okay, does not mean that they have a wall up, okay? It might mean that that person lifted weights that day, their arms are a little sore, and this is comfortable. So understand, there's a difference. Also understand that just because a girl might have her whole body pointed in the general direction you are, it does not mean that she's hot for you. Could it mean that? Sure. If you're one of those dating guru guys, absolutely, yeah. I mean, hey, they're like, oh, she likes you. She's got her whole body pointed. Don't read into that. Don't read into too much. I think that this article is going to explain it better, and I think be more accurate in more circumstances. So, with that being said, what's the article have to say?
Sure. Was that from personal experience or from secondhand accounts?
I plead the fifth.
Okay. Alright. Communication, nonverbal communication, and body language. Your facial expressions, gestures, posture, and tone of voice are powerful communication tools. Here's how to read and use body language to build better relationships at home and work. I think it's probably also important to point out, this is in general, there are going to be exceptions to many of these, more than likely.
I think exceptions aren't the rule, so I would also understand that this is generic to some extent, but also like don't run with this and just assume that this is doctrine, okay?
Yeah, so I think let's go ahead. This one describes what is body language. I don't think anybody wants to hear me read texts upon texts. So we'll definitely link this, and if you're interested, it'll be available to read once the live stream finishes processing.
I would also say that it's actually a pretty good read, and so if this is something that interests you, I would encourage you to read through it. I found it very informative, and I feel it to be very accurate. So definitely, if you care about this, take the time. It's like 5 minutes, maybe less, depending on how fast you read.
Depending on, I know I get distracted easily, so it takes me a couple tries. So why don't we go ahead with one of the bolded bits? How about this one?
Well, I think actually before we do that,
Yeah,
I
sure.
think we should read the importance of nonverbal communication, just so that way we have context for what we're discussing.
Of course. Your nonverbal communication cues, the way you listen, look, move, and react, tell the person you're communicating with whether or not you care, if you're being truthful, and how well you're listening. When your nonverbal signals match up with the words you're saying, they increase trust, clarity, and rapport. When they don't, they can generate tension, mistrust, and confusion. Do you want me to read a little bit too?
Nope, I think we're good there. I also think this too. When you're starting a podcast / discussion show, knowing how to communicate with a camera is bizarre and has taken me some time to get used to, and I still am learning. So I can say that nonverbal communication is important in multiple mediums, not just in the real world. So, and if anyone has any suggestions, of things I can improve on in any way, please email us. Let us know. I really appreciate feedback. So yeah, let the staff at Wicked Parley know what you think and how we can do a better job in the future.
Nonverbal communication can play 5 roles. 1. Repetition. It repeats and often strengthens the message you're making verbally.
Okay, think about that for a second. Okay, nonverbal communication. Nonverbal communication. There are 5 rules. What was the first? I saw this and I was like, we have to put this on here because it's hilarious. Like, this is really funny.
Didn't catch that the first read around, but now that I'm like paying even more close attention, gosh.
Yeah, non-verbal communications. Go ahead and just read what it says for the first one more time.
I know.
Go ahead, read it aloud.
I just read it though, repetition.
I know, and read the definition of it.
I did though.
I know. Read it again.
It repeats and often strengthens the message you're making verbally.
Mm-hmm.
Goodness gracious.
Okay. I'm not making fun of you. I'm actually trying to point out something that's kind of important. Just because you're saying something verbally and then you're saying something that's nonverbal doesn't mean there's a problem there. Because let's say, for instance, you're making a verbal message, right? Mm-hmm. And let's say the thing you're trying to say is something that's kind of important. But yet you're just like chilled back, way back. You're just like, all right, oh yeah, this is really important. But you have a completely relaxed demeanor. It might send the wrong message to the person that you're trying to communicate with. And so, by having a certain, nonverbal stance, it might make someone take more notice of you. So, like, let's say, like, you're sitting kind of forward, mm-hmm. and you're kind of like your shoulders are straight, and mm-hmm. you're conveying your message in a sort of, non-relaxed posture. Some people might take you more seriously, and might take which might be important for delivering a message. If you're running like a company. That's why I say it's important. Why I want you to read it twice. Mm. I don't mean to demean.
Is it also just a play on that word?
Yeah, it's also a play on the word a little bit.
It takes quite a bit to offend me in any sort of way.
Oh, I wasn't trying to offend you.
Yeah, I know, but like, if anybody was curious. All right.
That's the real reason why she got chosen for the job.
One reason. All right. Contradiction. It can contradict the message you're trying to convey, thus indicating to your listener that you may not be telling the truth.
Okay. I definitely could see how that could come off. Yeah. Have you ever been in that situation where you had like 3 kids and someone stole something and you got 2 guys looking directly at you and like they're like totally like trying to like they're pleading for their innocence while the other one's just like, no, I didn't do it. You know, kind of like off. You're like that's the one who did it. Your body language is giving you away. I feel like that's kind of what that one's talking about.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Body language can definitely give quite a bit away. You can, that quote, a picture's worth 1,000 words.
That's an important quote.
Yeah. Because you can read a lot without actually hearing anything.
Like our previous episode where we were talking about UFOs, I believe. The last one we talked about was UFOs, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. We had some pretty interesting pictures. Kind of worth 1,000 words, weren't they? They were. Hmm? They were. Time to murder some more Crystal Geyser.
Huh? Oh.
Time to murder some more Crystal Geyser.
Substitution. It can substitute for a verbal message. For example, your facial expression often conveys a far more vivid message than words ever can. I don't know about you, but like, for some of my friends, there's quite the difference between when they say they're disappointed and they're giving you the face of actual disappointment.
I think that people tend to be disingenuous with their particular reactions to people, depending upon who they speak to. I also think that there's a cultural component to various reactions and expressions
Mhm.
that play a huge role into whether or not that's actually accurate or not. Well, I find that probably a lot of people in Western culture probably would say that, yeah, if your face is going to show some sort of like a value that you're going to be able to read, then that might be true. But there are some people who are very stoic in their response, and so regardless if they're full of joy or they're sad, they don't really show it. And so it's not really, I think, fair to say that everybody's kind of like that. In fact, I would say that there's probably a lot more diversity than just that. So I think that there's a lot of emotions that are shown that are actually that we would see as maybe positive. They're in fact actually not. So
Fair. Let's see. Complimenting. It may add to or complement your verbal message. As a boss, if you pat an employee on the back in addition to giving praise, it can increase the impact of your message.
I'm gonna call sexual assault. I feel violated. How dare you touch me?
I mean, yeah, for some people who are uncomfortable with touch, yeah, that's definitely uncomfortable. Even if you're praising them, that's just a no.
I just imagine like a bunch of people are done with a match or a game at playing baseball. Everyone's like, "Good game," and they pat each other on the ass. You know, it's like
Definitely a cultural thing.
yeah, that's a work
Or a
culture.
traditional thing or something.
Yeah, that's something special right there.
Like, for the example they give, depends on how hard you pat them too. Like if like the like how hard you end up, patting them. For me, if I lightly pat them, it's like, yay, good job. If you just straight up smack them as hard as you can, that's like, I feel like you're lying.
Well, I'll say this: when I was a teenager, I didn't have control over my strength. And I remember being like late teens, like between 18 and 19, right? And I had gotten a lot, like I've been blessed genetically with like a decent amount of strength. And I remember like I gave someone a high five and dislocated their arm.
What?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, honestly, like some people who don't know their own strength can like really just kind of beat the crap out of somebody completely on accident.
Oh no.
In fact, I think I knew somebody that I didn't do it, but like I knew somebody who dislocated their arm from a high five too. So like it's now that I think about it. So yeah, that can happen, and it's happened to more than one person. So
That's definitely a case by case thing. Goodness gracious.
yeah,
Ah.
men are savages.
Yeah. Last one. Accenting. It may accent or underline a verbal message. Pounding the table, for example, can underline the importance of your message. I think that's kind of also case by case scenario.
Yeah, I mean, I think that the pounding idea probably comes back to probably the court systems, like with judges and stuff like that. Probably going back to England during their particular processes with the whole gavel to kind of signal in or hammer in authority. Because before that, I'm not sure if there's any like evidence to support it, but I can't think of anything historically that makes sense. I'm sure it's happened, but I think the definition behind it has definitely changed. So like the action no longer means the same thing as it did in the past.
Yeah. There's also, based on the amount of times you do it too, I've got a couple friends of mine, one of them being Ashley, who one of their pet peeves is when somebody claps to emphasize words in their sentence. It's one thing doing it once or twice, but when they do it every other word, it goes less for emphasis and more for the annoying factor for them, and sometimes even for me. I know I've done it by accident, and I immediately look at myself like, what did I just do?
Well, I mean, we all make mistakes, right? Like back to that other article. We all make mistakes, right? Or accidents. Accidents.
Okay. Let's see. Types of nonverbal communication. The many different types of nonverbal communication or body language include facial expressions. Do you want me to just go ahead and read all the bullet points and we can discuss them as a whole?
Yeah, I think so. That's probably the best way to convey the information.
Facial information, sure. Facial expressions, body movement and posture, gestures, eye contact, touch, space, and voice. Some of those we're gonna have to definitely go into depth.
Oh, I think all of them, to some extent, we could talk about in depth. But I think the parts that we should highlight have to deal with the ones that matter culturally. I
Okay.
mean, and it even mentions in the bottom of the facial expressions, it says,
Let me move your face so that they can also see most of the labels.
okay, yeah. I'm on the right side this time.
Oh, what a drastic change. Oh,
It is a change.
Ah!
It is massive. So, I feel so violated by being touched that way. All right. Anyways, but yeah, so depending upon the culture, depends upon which of these actually predominantly matter. I mean, yeah, I mean, in some cultures, eye contact actually is seen as offensive. You know, you look someone directly in the eye. I think it's very common in Chinese and some of the Eastern cultures that if you look someone directly in the eye, it's seen as a sign of disrespect. Is that fairly accurate from what your experience? Like, if you went to an elder and you looked them dead in the eye?
My eyes can usually, unless I'm paying attention to somebody's eye, my eyes usually scatter, so I would not be able to tell you from personal experience.
Okay. Well, I've heard. Maybe the chat can chime in a little bit. Have you guys had some sort of similar experience or heard something similar to that?
Nothing at the moment. But we do have the person who got their or their arm dislocated from a high five.
Okay, so it has happened to more people out there, so that is a fairly, known thing. Yeah, that's pretty scary.
Yeah.
Yeah, so when it comes down to these particular things, gestures play a huge role too. For instance, like a thumb up here, you're doing a good job.
Doing great, buddy.
You go to Malaysia, I think it is, and you do that, you may as well flip them off. It's like
Actually, Malaysia?
I think it's Malaysia. It's somewhere over that general area.
Do you want to? Sorry, hiccup. Do you want to check?
No, it's fine. Actually, you know what? We'll ask the chat. Does the chat care to find out where you can't use your thumb up as a sign?
Also, the OK symbol. That's also in some areas.
Yeah, the okay. Yeah, don't do this. Like, just I mean, like when you get on the plane and you leave the United States, just forget all of them. No middle fingers, no okay, no thumbs up, because you don't know what's safe and what's not until you get there. If you see a local do that and then the person doesn't get like shanked, you're like, all right, maybe we use that one. Yeah.
Really shanked.
Yeah. I mean, like, there's like the hang loose, like you go to Hawaii, like see that the hang loose. I'm telling you right now, I was doing that for like 2 months when I got back from Hawaii. Because it was awesome. It was just like, yeah, I'm going this way. Sup, dudes?
I would like to know about the words offensive.
Okay. All right. Mrs. Wizard, can you pull it up?
Yeah, sure. I'll go ahead and pull it up on the main computer. You wanna
Sure.
go ahead and talk? Yeah.
Yeah, we'll go ahead and talk.
Keep them entertained.
Keep them entertained. Well, I mean, I guess I can try to do that. Hopefully you guys don't get too bored. Yeah, so another thing that's kind of interesting, it has to do with body movement and posture. All right? I can imagine that you're not going to walk into a place of business anywhere in the United States and bow to anybody inside that place of business. But it has been kind of something that you might do in Japan, which has like been talked about pretty extensively. I also think that when it comes to facial expressions, the parts of the face kind of matter. Like for instance, not a lot of people use their tongue, to signify things. But the tongue can kind of play a role when it comes to certain posturing and certain forms of expressions in different cultures, which is kind of interesting. I think the one that I remember seeing the most was in some African cultures. They kind of do something with their tongue where they kind of have it sticking out over the lip a little bit, like I don't know. I'm not quite good at it. I'm sorry. I tried. I failed. But yeah, they do something with the tongue. I think the eyes are, of course, that's one of the key features across a lot of places is the eyes. Also, a sense of touch. I mean, you can't exactly walk into some places and just touch anybody. Some cultures are okay with it. So, I mean, it kind of depends. So, Mrs. Wizard, have you found it yet?
I've tried to cross-reference so that I can try to be accurate with this.
Mm-hmm.
Looking up, thumbs up is kind of insulting in, according to one website, Italy, Greece, Iran, and Iraq.
Okay.
And then one definitely, one of them, for the thumbs up specifically, definitely several countries in West Africa and the Middle East, including Iraq, Iran, and Afghanistan. And then the last article I ended up finding so far was definitely mentioned Iran, but I ended up scrolling down later, and apparently, using your left hand is also
Yeah, because it's considered dirty.
Ah.
Yeah. So I am very wrong about Malaysia, so I'm sorry for people from Malaysia. Apparently I just have some sort of, inclination.
With them, though.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sorry, I'm mistaken. So yeah, be warned, if you go to the Middle East or some parts of Africa, or if you go to, I guess, some parts of Eastern Europe, avoid using the thumbs up. Let's just say you don't want something bad happening.
Yeah, for the one in Malaysia, it's apparently pointing with your index finger. That's always offensive, apparently.
In Malaysia?
Yeah.
So don't point with your index finger.
You always point with 2 fingers, not just 1.
Okay, that's gonna be weird. All right. Okay. Okay, I'm just not gonna point. I'm gonna look at some. I'm gonna do it on accident. I'm like, wow, look at that. Oh, you're bad. Like, oh no, I'm sorry. I meant to do this.
Okay. Let's see. We got a comment from Kyle. Here, let me show you this one too.
Okay, can I move my face back now? Because I feel a little weird on this side. All right, yeah, that's right. I don't feel violated now. All right.
The way you're talking is just weird. All right.
Am I talking weird? You know what it is? It's
If you put out the water again.
It's the wonderful crystal geyser.
The CIA's chief of disguise talked about how foreigners can tell who's an American based on the way they stand. What?
I guess that's probably true. I mean, if we think about the way in which you stand, some people stand with a lean. I don't know. When I went to let's see, any of the bigger amusement parks where there's a lot of people, or if you go to like a large city where there's a diverse set of people from different parts of the world, it's something I kind of have noticed. I personally kind of lean to one side, I've seen some people kind of have their legs kind of spread pretty far apart, while others will actually just straight up pick up a leg and stand on one leg and then just kind of switch back and forth. So, I mean, I think, there's probably some differences there. I don't know all of them specifically offhand, but I have seen some different stuff that definitely was a little weird, and I can definitely say that the people who were doing this looked like they were from very different parts of the world. Were they all Americans? Perhaps. Were they all from the same state? I'm going to go with definitely not. There's no way. Let's just say cowboy boots and rain jackets are not common in California. Not that they're not existing, clearly, from my story in episode 3, but definitely not normal. So, especially in Southern California. Well, not only the cowboy hat, not that part, but the raincoat is weird in Southern California.
Do we want to move on with the article then?
Yeah, absolutely. Let's go for it.
Okay. Yeah, I think from this to take away, it'll say a lot about where you come from, what you were raised with, what you're okay with, and then it's just be careful in other areas that you're not native to.
Be respectful, I think, is probably the thing I would say. I would say if you don't know, ask.
Let me know when to stop.
I don't know, wherever you want to stop.
Let's see.
What feels right?
Okay. How to improve nonverbal communication.
Okay. Go ahead and read this. Let's go ahead and read this.
The entire paragraph?
Yeah, read the paragraph. You sound like you're questioning.
Let's go with the hiccups out of the way now.
Perhaps if you got yourself some crystal geyser.
Yep, that's definitely the gag of this episode.
Yes.
Nonverbal communication is a rapidly flowing back and forth process that requires your full focus on the moment-to-moment experience. If you're planning what you're going to say next, checking your phone, or thinking about something else, you're almost certain to miss nonverbal cues and not fully understand the subtleties of what's being communicated. As well as being fully present, you can improve how you communicate nonverbally by learning to manage stress and developing your emotional awareness.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I feel like it says it all, to be quite honest. I mean, nonverbal communication improvement, I think the first and most important thing is that you pause and perhaps examine the surroundings, pick up on some non-verbal cues about what perhaps is going on in the immediate, and then make a calculated positioning, perhaps, if you care, based upon those particular cues. But I think improvement only happens from practice, so being aware of it and then using it would be the way I would think you'd improve.
Like if you're doing something, quote, wrong, but nobody tells you, how are you supposed to know, type of thing, or how are you supposed to, quote, fix it. It needs to kind of just happen in order to kind of be pointed out. Hopefully not detrimental, but if it happens, just careful and make the proper choices to potentially make it better. So let's see, learn to manage stress in the moment. That's another episode.
Yes.
Develop your emotional awareness. Also another episode I think we've got.
Perhaps.
How to read body language.
Okay, and before we even go into this, I'm going to preface this by saying, once again, it depends culturally, but we're going to focus this particular thing on Western culture, primarily the United States. So this is what we're going to be talking about primarily in this particular context, because truthfully speaking, body language can differ quite dramatically depending on where you are in the world, as we've noticed with the thumbs up. So, so let's keep that particular frame of reference in mind.
Okay, first thing they mentioned, pay attention to inconsistencies, such as, let's see, their example is, are they telling you yes while shaking their head no?
Yeah, that's kind of important, because there was an example from an article that I'd come across, I believe, that spoke about a person who was shaking their head, right, while saying yes in Japan, in response to a guy saying, "Can I park here?" And the guy didn't know what was supposed to happen, and so he just parked there. But it had turned out that the person was basically trying to politely dissuade them from doing that because their car ended up getting towed.
Oh.
Yeah, and so I know I was just saying Western stuff, but like that was a Western person not paying attention to inconsistencies in the moment. So
I wonder why, like, did they know that they were gonna get towed?
No, they didn't. Not at all.
Okay.
They were like, I think they were on a business trip. I think they were representing some major electronics firm, and the story was told from the guy's first business trip. So, yeah.
Oh dear.
He had no context, no knowledge of any of it.
Oh.
I feel bad.
Yeah. Let's see. Looking at nonverbal communicational signals as a group. Don't read too much into a single gesture or nonverbal cue. Hey!
Yeah.
Consider all of them as a overall picture. Yeah.
Definitely.
Because if you've got one thing, like let's say you've got like just a bunch of gestures and one of them's off, it's like if you pay attention to just that one, you are probably going to make a wrong decision based on that one. But if you pay attention to the overall picture, that's a little better.
And that's the reason why the whole additive of, pictures worth 1,000 words comes from. It's because there's a whole bunch of different things that are constantly going on that you need to calculate and form together that tells you details about something. So it's really important that you do pay attention to not just the eyes, the mouth, or what they're saying, but all of it. So, yeah.
And then the last one is trust your instincts.
I don't agree with that.
My instincts are wrong on several occasions, so...
Yeah, me too.
I don't know if that's the case for everybody. Like, some people just got really good instincts.
Yeah. I think it's a person-to-person basis.
I think... Go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, it's like, for me, for instance, when we put out episode 2, I was feeling really good. I was feeling confident. I'm like, yes, the people are going to like this. And boy, was I wrong. I mean, like, my gut instinct was just dead wrong. And
it's a topic that people would probably be interested in. It was probably the way we did it.
Yeah, we did it bad. Let's be honest. We
admit it. We admit it. We're going to keep away from that until we're better at what we're doing.
Yes. But more importantly, I think that, like, just, like, gut instincts constantly are wrong. Like, I think that what people call their gut instinct, I think, is really their intuition. And I think intuition can be tricked by a bunch of different factors. Mm-hmm. And I think that I just would say don't trust your intuition, don't trust your instincts, because I think that that's not a way in which to get valid information. I think it's a way of reinforcing what you're believing or thinking is true. And because of that, you're going to ignore certain other things that I think are going to be more critical in making decisions. And so don't ignore the obvious exterior things. Focus on what you actually see. And if you don't know something, always ask. Don't be afraid to ask questions, because most people in this world get in trouble because they don't ask.
That reminds me of a video I need to show you later.
Okay.
But yeah, for this one, when you say don't trust your instincts, don't trust your intuition, I'd say add not all the time. At least you have to put it into context, especially because it's based on how you were raised. It's based on what your environment is. It's based on essentially how you think and what you believe to be true versus not true, what's good, what's bad, which is why I think that's one of the reasons why people study that in psychology. I think some people do.
I mean, it's definitely part of behavioral psychology.
Yeah.
And I think that interdisciplinary actions, particularly referring to communication studies, are also look into that quite a bit. But I think that the people who do the research when it comes to those things often come to the conclusion that they have to focus on a specific subgroup within a culture, because even if you're in the same culture but you're in a different group, it'll have a different reaction. An example of this, for instance, although I know this is not politically correct, is like people who are from the hood, people who are of a different background, we'll say, and so they have a different cultural approach. They might live 12 miles from where you live or less, but their whole world is different, and so those particular things, those nonverbal and verbal cues, are going to be completely different. And so I think that was something that was studied relatively recently, that kind of, I think, is kind of important to say.
Yeah. Kyle mentions that people confuse gut instinct with intuition right now a lot, and I'd honestly love to hear more about like what the distinction is versus why they might be so interrelated and able to be replaced right now.
I think they're the same thing. Honestly,
I consider them the same thing. I don't know a difference. So if somebody believes that there's a difference, I'd love to hear it and what it is, so that I can take that into consideration if somebody does, if I have a conversation with somebody about that.
I think cognitive researchers. There was a textbook I read about a year ago that discussed some things relating to animal behavior, and obviously humans are animals, and I think it's important to kind of understand that. And so instincts refer to the non-responsive impulses that we actually get. And so it's information that we get fed from the background that helps essentially assist with certain behaviors. And because of that, we end up having what we call gut instinct. And that's the reason why I think it's interchangeable. I think that instincts are essentially just non-focused cues that we get from our environment.
Okay. We do have an explanation from Kyle.
Sure.
Let's see. Intuition, instinct, and heuristics. I hope I pronounced that right.
You did.
Sweet. Intuition, instinct, and heuristics are often confused. Intuition is the reflexive, true knowledge that lets us know that 2 + 2 = 4, or fish if you're being me. without having to empirically test it. Heuristics are mental shortcuts, and instinct is a survival mechanism.
Okay. I'm not sure I agree with that. I would like to. Well, here's the problem with that, right? With the statement. So, when he talks, well, first of all, my audio is dipping out. I'm not sure why. A little bit. But intuition, instinct, and heuristics are often confused. Intuition is the reflexive true knowledge that lets us know 2 + 2 = 4. That's not true. What allows us to know what 2 + 2 = 4 has to do with our ability to process analytical information. It's different than the impulse. An instinct is kind of like when you sense with your hands, for instance, something that's hot, and you instantly remove your hand quickly before it burns it for too much. That's more instinctual. And those senses collectively added up add to what we call what I would refer to as the non-conscious senses or instincts. And that is why I would refer to instinct as gut feeling, because all of those things collectively are kind of give you an attitude or a way to kind of test the waters, figuratively speaking, with what your environment is doing at any given moment.
Okay. Yeah, I can see both of those.
I mean, I'm not saying necessarily it's entirely out 100% wrong. I just think that from my personal viewpoint, I don't agree with it. But I can see where your thinking is. And I think it's possible that it could be true, but from my stance, I don't think so.
English and societal definitions. Woo!
Yeah, I know. I think let's cut it here. Actually,
For the article?
For the article, yeah.
Sure. Do we get story time?
Do the people watching want story time?
We got like 3 people, or 2 or 3 people that asked for it earlier.
Oh well, are they still here?
Pretty sure.
All right. Well, let's click on the article. Let's see what they say. Let's see what they say.
Thank you. Let's see. I think, yeah, Zephyr was one of them, and Kyle's another one. Kyle's definitely here. Zephyr is probably here still.
Okay. All right, I will tell you the story which is, not entirely mattering to this particular thing, but it is a funny story. So, for those who are watching, I welcome you to stay. But if you don't want to hear a story about Pepsi, then I will understand if you decide to dip out. But I want you to know that I appreciate all of you guys supporting the channel, coming and checking it out, saying hi, and I'm going to continue to bring you more content. So, story it is. Okay.
Make sure you subscribe and tell your friends.
Yes, please. And don't forget to hit the like button. It'll help us in the algorithm. Which apparently has actually helped, because someone actually sent me a text message saying it appeared in their feed, and they're like, oh my god, that's crazy, your channel's out there now. I'm like, alright, cool. So, yeah, just keep on hitting those like buttons if you like the content, because it's really helping. Alright, so without further ado, the story about why I don't do Pepsi anymore. Okay, so about 2 years ago, I went to Hawaii for the very first time. And while I was in Hawaii, I discovered like a ton of amazing things that I could share another time. But the part that matters is that I went on a hiking, like kind of excursion, we'll call it, because it wasn't like a trip. It was like for let's call it generously 8 hours, into an area that's it's in the mountain area. So I went to the island of Kauai, and there are these really impressive mountains, and it was suggested by the person I was traveling with to go hiking. And I, thinking, I am in great shape, I can clearly do this, I am a man, I can do all of these things, it's no problem. I was like, let's go. And so we go. And me being stupid, I didn't even pack like a lunch. Like I didn't pack anything. And so when we got to about 3 miles from like the beginning of where the park is, where you have to then slowly go up to the top, I was like, hey, let's stop by and get some food or something. So we stopped by this gas station, and there's this crappy pizza and like a bottle of roughly about this size of Pepsi. And I don't know, I'm a bit of a soda connoisseur of sorts. And I like vanilla cherry Pepsi. It's not everybody's favorite, I understand, but it's mine. It's the one that I like. And so we go to the park, and we get up there, and I got my cherry Pepsi. And there's one thing that's kind of important to understand about Pepsi, period, okay? Any soda, any caramelized base soda is this. It's going to dry you out. Like, you drink it, it's going to make you more thirsty. And when you're in Kauai, it's kind of humid, a bit hot. And you're walking, up a fairly, like a steepish hillside. And there's some parts that kind of plateaus, and you're like, it's nice. But when you're going up, I mean, it's treacherous, okay? Like, it's like someone took like a claw, just like on the side of a mountainside, right? Like, how do I climb up this thing? It's like, all right. And meanwhile, I'm just like chugging away. I'm like, I get to about the halfway point in the bottle, okay? About the halfway point, I start going, God, I'm thirsty. Oh my God, Pepsi was a bad choice. And I'm starting to like complain like a lot. But like when I complain, I'm like supposedly funny to some people. Apparently every person that was walking past or walking with, or I should say hiking, because let's face it, these guys were like super try hard. We're talking cakes of sunblock, got full on like picks and shit. Like they're like climbing up like they're skiing, but like they're just trying to go up a mountainside. And here's me, I got a Pepsi, I got like a little satchel thing going on, and I'm like, I'm getting burnt to shit. I got like my Pepsi in one hand. I'm like, all right, we're going up this. And then all of a sudden, I get to that point where I'm super thirsty. It's halfway there. I start complaining, and people are just dying laughing. All right, just absolutely like can't continue the hike. I'm making them laugh so damn much because I'm like, Pepsi was a bad choice. God damn it. Fuck Pepsi. I just need some water. Can anyone give me some water? Just turn the Pepsi into water. And then I was like, all right, maybe. And then I had the brilliant idea of like, okay, if there's moisture in the air, if I unscrew this and then I just start holding it open, maybe I'll catch some moisture in the bottle. Nah. And all this effort, all this, we'll say, wasted energy, was only making me hotter. And my sunburn was like, we're talking full on, okay? Like, I'm a pretty fair-skinned guy. I mean, we're talking, I was like a tomato. And we're not even done yet. So we get to the very top. All right, at this point, I am just so, like, thirsty. And for some stupid reason, and I don't know why, but I was like, I'll just keep on having it. I mean, eventually, I'm just going to be like, it's going to, like, just reverse at some point. It didn't. It just kept on getting worse and worse and worse. And so we get to the very top, and we're taking pictures, and I'm just like, oh God, I just need some water. Just need some water. I'm like, I actually, like, people who are laughing at this particular thing, I'm like, do you have any water? Can I borrow some water? And all of them are like, no, we don't got no water. We don't have any water. And I'm just like, how is this possible? How are there like a dozen people up here and nobody brought water? Like, what? Of course, the real truth is these people probably had water, but they didn't want to share. Those bastards. Anyways, so we get up there, we take our pictures. The people I'm with are having fun. I'm dying. I'm like, you see like that dog who's like panning at the, like he's like tied up on the post. He's waiting for his owner to come get him. I don't know if you ever see people do this in the grocery store. It's terrible. But I'm like that dog. I'm just panning. I'm like, I need water. And so we finally get done taking pictures, done doing that stuff, and so we start to head back towards the Jeep. And I should mention we were in a Jeep, so you can imagine how hot it is inside that car as we were going up, and the limited protection it gave from the sun. Kind of important. So we're making it back down the hill, right? And I'm just like, I literally am just like, I'm full on running down the side of the mountain at this point. Like, we're talking near like vertical running down because I'm like, I need water bad. And I get to the point where I'm like, okay, all right. So I'm halfway back And this is the part where it starts getting crazy, because the mountain does this kind of motion, right, as you go down there. And so as we're getting closer to the car, the mountain is like, it's starting to be like a vertical thing where you have to climb up, you know, where you're grabbing onto shit and you're like actually having to do this kind of motion. And I'm like, oh, I need water so bad. I'm teary. I'm like trying to like catch like my tears with like my tongue. I'm like so like just I need water. And for the life of me, and I don't know why I did this. I took the remainder of what was left in the Pepsi, and I drank it.
Oh no.
Oh my god. Was that a bad choice? It was so bad. Like, so bad. It was like lava, because like at this point, keep in mind this. All right, so it's like 90-ish degrees out there, right? Maybe more. And I now have Pepsi that's been in my hand for at least 6 to 8 hours. That's hot Pepsi. Hot Pepsi. It was like chugging cough syrup that's been heated. Like, it was horrible. All right? Horrible. And meanwhile, I'm still saying more jokes. I'm like, I will never have Pepsi again. This fucking piece of shit. I'm gonna take this fan, just gonna write them evil letters. Like, how could you do this to me? All the while, I'm not taking responsibility at all for my poor decision making. Nothing. So, I finally get to the Jeep, and I mean, we're talking like I was ahead. Okay? Full on running, all right? Like, you've never seen a fat man run that fast before in your life. I mean, you've never seen it. And it's never happened. We're full on Chris Farley, you know, running like super fast, or like he had the ho movement from like the Beverly Hills Ninja. Like, we're talking like full on. We're just trying to go as quickly as we can. And I'm thinking by the time I get there, I'm like, all right, we're just gonna get some water. And I'm thinking the people I'm with, they're right behind me. Well, guess what? They took an hour to get to me. At which point my throat was so like so parched that it was like red. And like, let me put it this way: when I drank water finally after hours, okay, it was like I was drinking metal. Like, it tasted like metal.
Oh.
And I was just like in agony for like an entire day. So I had a sunburn, just dry as fuck throat, and I had gone up a mountain, which, in my particular opinion, the least problematic element of the entire thing. And so I say this to you. I encourage you. Don't drink Pepsi. And for the love of God, don't go hiking with the only source of food or water, soda. Don't do it. It's a mistake. This has been a wonderful podcast. I am your host, Justin. Fellow co-host, Rose. We will see you in the next one, where we will be discussing video games and what it has done to the current generation. I look forward to seeing you there Wednesday, 9 p.m. PST. Till then, see you in the next one.
We bid you adieu.